कुछ और होता है, but the first hour is we have to be a little careful so that we can keep the eyes open and the speakers don't get distracted. So let us start the first panel discussion after lunch. And if I may call upon Nagesh Prabhuji and Mr. Sanjeev Kumar on the stage. So the first panel discussion, basically, you all have the program. So we are going to talk about strategies for methane reduction in waste sector with focus on organic waste management and dumpsite remediation or rehabilitation, organic waste management and scientific landfills with gas collection system as a potential strategy to reduce methane emission, dumpsite remediation as a potential strategy to reduce methane emission, and we also take questions. So we have roughly about an hour and a half for this session. So I would request both the panelists to kind of restrict their presentations to about half an hour so that after each presentation, we can spend some 10-15 minutes to take questions from the participants who are here, as well as we are joined by hundreds of participants through all social media because this event is being streamed live. So if I may request Sanjeev Kumar ji. Sanjeev Kumar ji is currently working as the head of strategic business growth and transformation in Resustainability Limited, erstwhile known as RAMKI. And if I may request Dr. Richard to quickly introduce Sanjeev ji.
Hello, everyone. Mr. Sanjeev Kumar has more than 25 years of work experience in environmental sustainability, circular economy, and waste management. He is currently the head of strategic growth and transformation division at Resustainability Limited, formerly known as Ramki Enviro Engineers Limited, a KKR-backed organization. Mr. Sanjeev has played a crucial role in resustainability, where he has been involved in permitting, establishing, and successfully operating various projects related to municipal solid waste, biomedical waste, hazardous waste management and disposal, effluent treatment plants, and recycling units. He has been responsible for conceptualizing, permitting, establishing, and operating the largest municipal solid waste treatment facility in Narela, New Delhi. This facility generates an impressive 24 megawatt of power using waste. In terms of education, Mr. Sanjeev holds a post-graduation degree from Delhi School of Economics and School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. Prior to his work in resustainability, he worked at the Central Pollution Control Board from 1999 to 2006. With this, I would like to invite Mr. Kumar. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Asin. Thank you, CSC, and thank you, Dr. Richa, for giving us an opportunity for explaining about what the conditions are there on the ground and how I think the combination of the two panelists bringing in on what the dump sites should be looked after is also a well thought action. One statement which was made by Mr. Asin was that it's very difficult for a post-lunch session to keep the people attentive and explain about what the projects are. So I will try that that you are not feeling dozed off because of the sumptuous lunch we had. And it was such a lunch that definitely it will lead to some kind of a dosing kind of a thing, but then definitely I'll try to put forward the topic which is the topic for the day is that methane emissions and how do we estimate, talk about what methane is. I think this is nothing which is very difficult to understand what methane is and how it can have an impact to our common lives. Obviously, it is a very well-known pollutant and has got a lot of severity of its effect. And if we take about the urban areas, the dumping grounds are one of the major source of methane emissions. And being close to the proximity of the habitation, its impacts are really very hard. And it's unpredictable. Nobody knows how it can be and what level of impact it can be. It can cause immediate health impacts. And obviously, we are not very, it's not being calculated. It's not being risked upon. And it's like being not aware of things are already going on. But did we realize it? I think the first realization was something way back in 1995 or 85, in that period, 80s. Because of that only, it was thought that we brought in Municipal Solid Waste Rules 2000. And the basic thing in the Municipal Solid Waste Rules 2000 was segregation to be given as the major source of, so that there is a organic waste which gets removed upon. But even today, we have number of dump sites. I think in the morning session, it was already explained. There is data is an issue, whether it is 600 or whether it is 20, whether what level and all. But yes, dump sites are there. And each of these dump sites in case of India, and it's very much like these are very much specific to India, very much specific to tropical regions. And it is not in your case of other countries so, because of the kind of waste which is we are generating and the waste which is going back to the dumping grounds or to the landfills, which is what we are talking about. The major component is these dump sites are having more than 50 to 60% of the organic components. The tropical climate and the temperature within the country gives much more effect or much more reactions to occur, which generates more methane. And this methane is much more harmful, almost like 20 to 30 times, however, various studies have shown that they are much more harmful than even carbon dioxides. So we are actually having the biggest of one of the problem of methane, thanks to CSE for looking it after, even after SBM2 has passed 3 years now. So with that, there are so many, the best solution would have been there should not be no dump site. But how do we do that? What should be our focus? Should we focus on bioremediation? Should we focus on ensuring that methane is getting it contained? Or should we focus on waste treatment? Or is it to be done parallelly? This is one the question which is very important to be addressed. How do we, and I would request CSE to look into that this can become a one of the blueprint as to what should be done. Is it this first, this, or it should be parallel activity going on? The immediate opportunities are closure of the dump site, which is probably not very much liked by the authorities. But is it required? It's a question to be pondered upon. Is that, can we do it parallelly? Can we do it on a mass scale, assuming that one of the data says 600 dump sites are across the country? Do we need all the 600 dump sites to be treated at one go? What level, which level dump site as to what kind of a treatment given has to be prioritized and has to be done? Do we have the potential of doing it, or do we have the capability of doing all the 600 dump sites together? What are the prerequisites required? What are the post-requisite required? And what are the requisites which is during the execution is required? So these are the things which should come as a part of a discussion outcome. The immediate opportunities are closure of these dump sites. And one such example which I will be presenting is in Hyderabad, which is quite contrary to what biomining is there. If you talk about the potential strategies to methane emissions, the first thing is that any dump site having the waste should have no waste intake if it is to be leaved for either for biomining or for capping, biocapping, or for leaving it so that it decomposes. Which unfortunately, none of the corporation, none of the projects, I think my friend Mr. Nagesh will be able to tell that none of the corporation, if the site is handed over to a project either for biomining or biocapping, they don't permit that waste continues to flow into it. So that is where the challenge lies. It should be completely left over. And what should be done? There should be complete source segregation. Obviously, we have been talking since 2000. It is 23 years now. Still, we are talking of source segregation. Will that happen? Assuming the last 23 years, it appears quite very difficult because we are moving so fast. In morning session, I could not attend that but I was just going through one of the presentation of Professor Asolkar. He was talking that we are talking of urbanized India. When we talk of urbanized India, we still forget about that 50% of the people in the villages are not urbanized, and they are very well versed in source segregation, finding ways to what the organic waste. Either it goes in the form of food waste, or it goes in the form of food waste, food material for the animal husbandry, or in some other source which does not affect the environment for that. And they don't have such kinds of mixed waste, which is can have contaminants. Whereas in urban areas, it's completely opposite. We want everything to be fast. We want every waste to be thrown away. Even we have a habit of explurging, and we take so much of waste of food or so much of packaging material that the waste quantities are abnormally increased, and we throw it in a way that becomes contamination. So organic waste treatment is very much important. For that, I think Dr. Richa's presentation was talking of various methods of CBG, composting, and many other methods of what potential it has. Anaerobic window compression is the old process, but will that it requires turning and to avoid more time and space, and it also leads to emissions there. So easy to operate but economically viable. Anaerobic digestion, biomethanation, suitable for segregated waste, but high potential for methane generation. So the one solution is to have fresh waste treatment of organic waste treatment. In case of biomethanation, one such treatment plant, obviously there are roughly around 47 tons of biomethanation being generated, but there is a potential of biomethanation gas being generated from the capped landfill also. These methanes, when you cap the landfill, larger dump grounds, there is a methane generation gases are getting emanated, and over a process, when you cap it, you are containing the waste into contained environment, wherein you can actually go and extract the waste, extract the gas, which needs purification, and obviously, and this such plant is operating in case of Hyderabad, where we are generating roughly around 10 tons, 5 to 10 tons. Now the extraction is going up. Initially it was 5 tons, but now it is up to 7 to 8 tons, and slowly it is going up to 10 tons. And the gas extracted is being purified and used for automobiles within the facility. So one such potential of cap to reduce the methane emissions is that to cap the landfill and get an extraction of biomethanation gas. How does it happen? Obviously, it has a capping guideline which talks about the different layers of lining, putting up of the, I'll just explain you the, So putting up of the holes and extracting gas out of it, so that you can take the gas and purify and convert it into compressed biogas. I think there is a session on the emission models, but then I have just briefly touched base upon how much emissions, gas emissions are there possibly into a dump ground. So these are the few methods. I am not so well versed about these methods, but then one such land gem EPA method has been practiced in modeling, has been done in our capping at Hyderabad. And based on that, we have estimated what is the gas potential and how much time it will take. So generally for a capped huge large dump ground like what we have at Jawahar Nagar in Hyderabad, it will take roughly to the life of 8 years to reach to a break-even point of how much gas can be extracted. And based on that, we have invested in money so that we can extract that gas and use it for purposes. The composition, if we talk about what is the composition of various gases within the landfills, and especially when it comes to high MSW at Jawahar Nagar, the methane is constituting about roughly about 40 to 60% by volume, 45 to 60% by volume, followed by carbon dioxide, which is 40 to 60%. And then you have other gases like hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, ammonia, and non-methane compounds, sulfides, hydrogen, and carbon dioxides. So these are the potential gases within the dump ground. If they are not properly extracted, cleaned, treated, managed, these are the emissions which continues to be there and has potentiality of being carried away when we move out without having these studies. Which affects the waste? Obviously, waste composition. In India, which is very much different from what the European and the other countries are. Our waste composition is having roughly about 50 to 60% of the organic component, which is one of the major source of methane generation or methane formulation, followed by age of the refuse, presence of oxygen in the landfill, moisture and temperature. Within India, the North India versus South India, there is a temperature difference, average temperature difference of roughly around 3 to 4 degrees across the site, across the season. And with that, there is a lot of difference in terms of emissions coming up. So within India only, we have a large geography, and based on that geography, the emissions have potential. There is the potential of emissions going up and down. So rapid degradation continues for 3 to 7 years. Generally, it happens in 4 phases. Rapid degradation continues for 3 to 7 years with 4 to 10 lakh kg per hour per year. Moderate degradation continues for 10 to 20, and slow degradation continues to 20 to 40 years. This is very important to understand that what kind of emissions will continue if we don't have a full control. Obviously, there are certain benefits. There is a problem. First, I'll talk about the problems. The problems are that it takes long time. It locks the land. But what exactly is the use of the land after bioremediation has not been very clearly defined. If a bioremediated land is being used for any other purpose, what is that purpose to be defined? How much depth of the land are we going to extract? What is beneath the ground is not studied so far. Is the study very important for that? So benefits, flares, obviously, some of the gases can reach to boilers, micro turbines, vehicle fuels, synthetic fuels, electric power generation, and pipeline quality natural gas, PNG gas. This all depends upon a lot of studies. It just cannot be done that we can just biomine all the lamping grounds. But does that mean that do we not biomine? Definitely biomining is a very important tool. SBM2 talks of remediation. SBM2 talks on remediation, wherein gives 3 all potential. Whether you biomine, whether you cap, whether you do the hybrid. I think that was also presented. But what is being taken by the authorities is that all the dump grounds are being biomined, and what is the use is also not being defined. What will be the use for later on is also not being defined. And what should be before putting it to use of that land? What is the kind of the legacy issues which are there in that? Most of the dump grounds, old dump grounds, are either in the water, or either in the marshy areas, or they are in the dump ground, or it is low-lying areas, or they are in the quarries. So what has the impact gone beneath the ground needs to be studied. This is one such capping section. This is as per the MSW rules. This is one such capped landfill photograph, which is there at the Jawahar Nagar. I'll tell you a small background of this is that this area was roughly around 332 acres of land, 34 acres of land. And it had a lot of low-lying abundant areas within the 333 acres. So a lot of waste from the 332 acres of land was trommeled, was brought into fine things, and some portion were capped, some portion was filled up, and roughly around that 332 acres, 214 acres of land was reclaimed for putting up another fresh waste treatment plant. This happened in the year 2000. This started in the year 2009, 10, 11. And now last 10, 15 years, we have a study, we have things coming up that there are lots of things which was not properly assessed at that point of the time. And those are leading to legacy leachate, legacy problems. For that, the government of Telangana is putting up a lot of effort, and there is supporting for putting up of leachate treatment plant, putting up of flaring things, and obviously with this capped landfill, a biogas plant has also been added to it. So it's a biogas not from the organic waste, but biogas from the landfill gas. So capping system sequence of activities is actually, it's like creating a profile and then putting up of GCL liners, installation of all the liners into it, then putting up of bore wells and placement of restaurant soil curves, installation of gas management system, and then capturing the gas, putting it to cascades, and certain portions where there cannot be, it is also flaring of the gas. And this is what the compressed biogas from the landfill gas is coming up. It's one of the unique model project which is largest from the landfill gas extraction biogas plant with about 650 nmg per hour. It is operating, and all the gases extracted is being used for automotive fuel. But then this is a quite expensive thing than compared to what the biomining is. It's one of the expensive thing because it leads, first of all, it's a very good technically proven studied thing. It needs all the 600 dumping grounds has to have this kind of a study, is what we say, to understand what is beneath it. And then gas extraction is expensive, cleaning of the gas is expensive, and obviously these infrastructure to offtake that gas is also not available. One such study was also done at Ghazipur, where GAIL was engaged by the Municipal Corporation of Delhi to do that. Probably there was some proper studies or proper way it could not have happened. Probably it's my assessment that did not make a success. Then you have a Gorai landfill where similar study was, but gas extraction was not there. Measuring the potential is also okay. So we have Mr. Khandelwal sir, who has done this study at MCD, and I think he has come to the right time to tell us about what the capping and gas extraction. Ghazipur dumping ground.
Very, very low. You were saying when they are starting the research, there was not of air was being
Yeah. Yes. So it needs a lot of engineering skills. Yeah.
Another hazard of the landfill that when there is a mix of oxygen and methane, that explodes, and same thing happened after some year. But in 2007, there was a park in which the 4 or 5 vehicles were thrown out of road to the canal, and 2-3 people died. That was a very serious accident. It was an explosion. So the Ghazipur, the GAIL has spent a lot of money, and they put the micro terminal, which is not available in India. So these are the issues which are very
So I am almost done. I am open for any queries. I will try to explain if something is required. Yes, sir, please.
Just wait, please wait, sir, because we are streaming it live. The other side is also listening to the
Yeah, in one of the slides, you showed the picture of CBG plant based on the landfill gas. Where exactly this is located?
This is at Jawahar Nagar, Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Okay. So all the facilities you described about is in the Jawahar Nagar only.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But they have engineers as well.
Yes, sir. It is a. Yes, sir. It is an integrated project. It is initially when the land was handed over, it was 334 acres of land, out of which the land was reclaimed. Certain portion up to 125 acres, having about roughly around 1.2 crore tons of waste is capped. The other waste were biomined. Some areas were filled up, reclaimed. It is having a wet compost process for wet treatment, for wet waste treatment. It is a RDF production unit. It is having a leachate treatment plant and waste to energy plant of 24 megawatt operating right now. So it is having a full set at one place.
But
participants as well.
so if you look at the pollutants coming out of the waste to energy plant, they have only one scrubber that is called the lime scrubber. You see, and the quality of waste they are getting, the calorific content is around say 1100 kilocalories, which cannot be incinerated. So they are mixing the hazardous waste also.
No, sir. No, no.
Because you can say no, but I can say with evidence that I have seen. If you see when they burn it, it intermittently it becomes complete black on the control room. Then I went to the downstairs. So what they were doing, they were saying the dust comes to the camera and that is why it becomes black. Then I went to downstairs, the camera was not inside the burner. It was the outside and there was a glass window as happens. So how can the dust can come? And after 5, 10 years, and there were some drums were lying there. And based on that, I submitted a report to the Chief Secretary, Telangana, Mr. Joshi. And when Mr. Joshi retired, and they got the clearance for putting another 24 megawatt of power plant. So these are the bigger issues linked to the political and social relationship, which is not good for the such type of environment management issue.
Sir, I'll just like to maybe there is some confusion here. There are two such plants in case of Hyderabad. One is the hazardous waste plant. Probably you have visited the hazardous waste incinerator plant, because 4 years back there was no municipal solid waste to energy plant in Hyderabad. It was only in Delhi. Municipal solid waste energy plant has become operational during the Corona period. So there was no such municipal solid waste energy plant. Yes, sir.
I have counter-checked because I was asked to visit that plant because the waste to similar plant they were about to put. So is there any information about the new plant which started operating, what they are doing it? And what are the pollution, air pollution control measures?
Where,
you have
sir?
Any idea?
In case of Delhi, you are asking?
Hyderabad. Delhi, I have just told you because Ramki is running both the.
Yes, Delhi plant is also operating since last 7 years now, and 2017 now.
More than 7 years because
2017 September it became operational.
It started from around say 2012, but there was old Chinese plant.
I think there is some.
उसके 2 साल पहले बंद रहा वो नहीं बताएंगे आप 2 साल तक वो बंद रहा
Sir, I humbly request you to make a visit to those plants. I take that ownership. I take that accountability. I invite all of you to please visit the plant, and we will certainly improve upon if something is. Sir, we should be proud that as on date today, India is having 14 such waste to energy plants, and all of them are running successfully with no air pollution emissions, which is harmful to the environment. Sir, I will tell you, I cannot talk about all, but ours is exclusively based on RDF. If we don't get an RDF, if we are mixing the waste, there may be chances of pollutants coming out, which is not as per the standards.
Okay. Agnihotri sir, let us just hold it for a second.
Bhavana, we have started in 2009, but only compost plant, because we have not allowed them to put the waste to energy plant. That was permission was given only in 2016, and CTO was got on 2017. So before that, there was no waste to energy plant in Bhavana. First waste to energy plant in Delhi has come from at Okhla, second at Gazipur, third Bhavana, and fourth now at Tajpur. ILFS का अभी भी चल रहा है अभी भी चल रहा है.
All right, Agnihotri sir, let's just hold it for a second. Sanjeev ji will be with us. Is there any further question from the participants? Okay, let me come to you.
Thanks for the presentation. I have one question, and you mentioned about the
You mentioned about the point on how the bioremediation land need to be used. Can you explain more? Because on bioremediated land, there are treatment facilities that has been set up. So if you can explain more on what is it, that would be useful. Thank you.
See, if you go with the guidelines of CPCB on the legacy waste remediation, the first thing what the guidelines talk about the assessment and the technical study about the feasibility of that area to be biomined. Legacy waste treatment. I'm not talking of biomining as such. Please, Monday, the Swachh Bharat mission is talking of 3 modes. One is remediation, third is also reclamation or through biocapping, and third is the hybrid of both the things. So that is what the guideline says. The guideline also says that there should be a proper technical study before we go for biomining. Now, coming to your question, when the biomining is, so why the technical study is important is to understand up to what level the area is to be biomined and what are the legacy issues in that area. When it comes to the land which is reclaimed, then you can put up the as per the certain defined uses, in which one such use is defined as it can put up a fresh waste treatment plant. But when you talk about the fresh waste treatment plant up to 15 megawatt and all the processing waste, does not require any EIA. Then where is the study required? We don't know. None of us know. Now, uske niche zameen ke niche kya pada hai, wo to none of us are knowing. So this is one thing which is why it is done. Because if there is so much of issues assets that we want to do it very fast, we want to implement all the projects. So that because of that is lacking behind. So what are the legacy issues right now? What we face in Jawaharnagar is that something that was done since last 25 years, there is certain portions of leachate coming out from this surrounding areas. So we don't know exactly which is the contributor. Nobody can study right now. So that is what is the issue is. And we don't have an EIA required for processing plants. Please, up to 15 megawatt, you can just put in the plant, put a CTO and get a plant ready. So when there is no EIA, nobody knows it.
Yeah, can I get Richa in to answer this question? So I want you to ask these questions once more.
So basically the question was,
Carry on. No. Let him ask the question.
so one of the point sir mentioned is the bioremediation land, how it needs to be used, need to be defined. So because I visited a couple of bioremediation site and I noticed that treatment facility plants have been set up. So if there's some explanation, some more description can be given, that would be used. Yeah.
So yeah, what to do with the reclaimed land? As of today, we don't have any policy stating that these could be the possible applications of the reclaimed land. However, we do have what to do with the capped landfill. Such options are given. Some examples like warehouses, parks, and all these kind of things, like low in civil engineering, we call it low traffic areas. So we can construct that, which can be done after 15 years of post closure monitoring of a capped landfill. This is given in Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. However, no such application of what to do with the biomined land is not being given. So we have also been advocating for, we need to have some policy, some guidelines stating that what could be the possible applications. But many of the cities, what they are doing now is, once they are removing the legacy waste and reclaiming the land, they are installing waste processing facilities. I have seen that happened in Indore. I think in Goa also. Nikhil will be able to tell us more about it. In many cities, and I think it's a good application. However, I just want to add one thing. Once the land is reclaimed, we need to test it if it is free from any sort of pollutants. And then maybe we can decide what should be the, so we don't have such standards also. I mentioned during my presentation as well. But yeah, as of now, we don't have, because this biomining concept came after 2016, So our law, the last amendment happened in 2016. That time, people were not much aware about landfill mining and biomining related things. So I don't think a land which has been reclaimed, a landfill which is capped should be compared. These are completely two different things, and we should not be waiting for 15 years to do the post-closure care as we do in case of capped landfill. So it could be reduced to maybe a year or a couple of years, and some monitoring should be done. The soil strata should be tested for the presence of organics or toxic metals, and then it can be used for gainful applications.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richa. Any quick question? We have time for one more question. Anyone? Okay.
Under the CBG plan, are you going to claim the CDM benefits? Carbon credits?
Sir, the idea is first to solve the problem.
Okay.
The idea is not for carbon credits or CDM benefits.
Okay.
We are with humongous on the problems. First, let's solve the problem. There is, in fact, people like Sigma, RE Sustainability, or many other people, I don't know, but many other people. This is one such service which is very much required. And it's like the pressure is, or it's not about the pressure, the government or the need of the hour is SBM2 is to be implemented probably 15, 20 years back, is to be implemented in 3 years now. So 600 dumping grounds. What I am trying to tell you, the potential is very high. The potential of these academicians and the technicians and the experts are, nobody is parallel to us. And in that, if these 600 dumping grounds are studied properly, both of us will be on a safer side to solve the problem. Because at the end, the person who does is getting into problems. I think one of the person who's sitting here is understanding what I am meaning.
Okay, we have one quick question
Dr.
here.
Richa, just want to clarify. Bioremediated land, the guideline says it can be used for integrated fresh waste treatment plant.
Yeah.
It says, but at the same time, it also says proper studies to be conducted. Guideline CPHU के guideline में है या किसी guideline में है? I have a recall, but we can discuss.
No worries. I have one quick question here.
So as you said, you have reclaimed the land for the use, and you have set up a waste treatment facility. I just want to know one thing, sir. In Hyderabad, do you have a fresh dumping taking place on the same land which you have reclaimed?
Yes, I told you, that it's like 330 acres of land. The footprint has been reduced to 125, which is capped. Balance 212 or 15, whatever is the leftover, is being used for integrated fresh waste treatment plant. It has got compost, that is wet processing. It has got dry waste. All the RDF is getting generated, and that RDF is nowhere going out. It is being put into the waste to energy plant. It has got a landfill gas, compressed biogas. It has got a leachate treatment plant. And all the auxiliary functions, including the transport hub, including the leachate treatment plant, including the air quality, water quality, whatsoever you talk of an integrated plant, everything is there. And the same plant is here in Delhi on a virgin land.
I'm asking about any fresh dumping of waste, like it was a legacy dump site.
So fresh dumping is not
You are
there.
talking
It's
about a
fresh
treatment
waste
plant.
treatment plant. I got your point. It is not fresh dumping. Fresh waste now, all the entire 7,500 tons of waste per day, 7,500 tons of waste per day is coming to that plant and is getting treated through all this integrated process.
So you have a secured landfill, sanitary landfill.
Yes.
To only put the ash.
Only for the
Ash.
20% inerts. Yes. Ash nahi. Ash is a separate. Ash is getting utilized in brick form. It is going, here we have a ash treatment plant. किसका? It's not fresh waste, sir, which is cab. It is when the waste of it was spread across 330 acres में से जो bioremediation करने के बाद it was the entire undulating land. We created a land out of it, and then the waste which was inerts or which had some obviously organic composition was capped. This is what I am trying to tell you.
So if I may intervene, it's I think we can call it a hybrid model where a portion of landfill was
Exactly. Yes.
capped, and
Correct,
a
correct,
portion
correct.
has been used for
It's an hybrid model. Yeah.
reclaimed, yeah, and for installing waste processing facilities.
Yes.
Including the so I think
Including
sanitary landfills are
Yes.
the necessary evils, I would say. I mean, we need that for inerts and all.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you. So a big round of applause for Mr. Sanjeev Kumar. Sir, please wait here. Let me now invite Nagesh Prabhuji. So Nagesh ji is the co-founder and director in Sigma Global Environment Private Limited. And with the amount of work that he has done, not just as an industrialist, but also as a scientist, as a speaker who have been gracious enough to attend even our events in the past. So let me quickly introduce him before I invite him to speak. So Nagesh ji heads the business development department of Sigma Global Environment Solution Private Limited, a co-founder of India's leading dumpsite mining enterprise. And if you see his social media tag next to his name, he calls himself the landfill guy.
Landfill mining guy.
The landfill mining guy. Anyway, he's renowned for pioneering municipal solid waste management technology. Sigma is committed to rapidly eradicating legacy waste dump sites across India, aspiring to be industry leader with remarkable year-on-year growth. Nagesh ji is an accomplished professional with an MBA from Dublin Business School and a BTech in electrical engineering from Manipal University, bringing a blend of strategic management and technical expertise to the team. Thank you so much, Nagesh ji, for attending. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Atin, and good afternoon, all. So I would like to tell you that my presentation is probably now restricted to just one slide because Richa has done half my job. So let's talk about more as a private agency perspective. I would like it to be more interactive session than something that I would like to present, because I'm not here to present what biomining is. Richa has already done that. We've all seen that. And I would like to just start with what we have done to give you a perspective that what is that background that I'm talking about and with what experience that we are talking about, because we are that breed of people that we believe in compliances being paramount. And at the same time, when we are talking about dump sites, not landfills, there requires to be an Indian jugaad also, right? Because, India is not a very rich country and everybody cannot afford the processing cost like how the Koreans or the Americans or the Australians are today offering, right? So we'll have to work on some methodologies where we adhere to the compliances and do the flawless job at the same time to give a complete satisfaction to the urban and local bodies. So this is just a brief thing that we have done. We have till now processed 87 lakh tons, and we have roughly reclaimed 500 acres of land, which were erstwhile dump sites. We have crossed 12 lakh tons of RDF disposal as of today, and we're employing close to 2,000 people. We've just crossed 2,500. And as we speak, across India, we have a processing capacity of 25,000 tons of legacy waste every day. And we've also completed 25 projects right now. We're operating 11 across India in 9 states. And one thing that we've been always advocating is that we've been calling Ramki as the last man standing. One thing that we've been inspired with the company like Ramki or Resustainability is that they've never given upon some things which was strongly necessary for the solid waste management industry to prosper. That is, public health cannot be free of cost, right? If there is a notion that public health can be free of cost, we are living in a fool's paradise. And for that, Resustainability today is this leader. They've never given upon thing that if you want compliances, you have to pay for it, right? So in that endeavor, we've been advocating 4 important concepts. We call it as 4 T's. And with these, any private agency that is successfully implementing these 4 T's will never fail in the project, is what we've seen with our experiences. Before 2015, when we co-founded Sigma, none of us even knew the spelling of municipal solid waste. Okay, we are all serial entrepreneurs. We are second generation entrepreneurs. We are from steel industry, UPVC. I was agri, procurement manager. So we had nothing to do with solid waste management. We spent about a year traveling all across the globe, understanding what industry is very lucrative, where is that we can add on value. And that is when we realized that these are the 4 things that is very essential in order to bring in that kind of a confidence in the urban and local bodies, because it was plagued with a lot of unscrupulous players, I would say, right? So it was like mudslinging. So the ULBs said the private operator is not good, and the other way around, you didn't pay me, so I'm not working. So we said nothing doing, we'll have to concentrate on all this. So technology, we said, we went out in the market to see if there were machines which were readily available. And when we started in 2015, it was very, very expensive. We said nothing doing. We brought in a team, we built up an R&D facility in Coimbatore, and we built up and designed our own machines. We tied up with the company in Korea, and we brought in certain technologies from them. We got exclusivity from them, and we built the same machines in Coimbatore. And we said, this is how we will do it. And that's what gave us an edge today, right? So we keep on telling people that biomining is not trauma laying. It's not just trauma laying, right? It's important that when you are excavating the waste, which is 100%, it's important for you also to ensure that this 100% is either reused, recycled, and what we call now as repurposed, right? India is today heavily getting urbanized, and it requires a lot of resources. And it is very important for us to see if there are any resources which could be taken out, not from the virgin material, right? For example, when we talk about soil or stones, now if they are inerts, if the TCLP tests pass, if they are clearing the US EPA standards, why not use them for road construction? Why not use them for road embankment? Why not use them for bridges? Why not use them for building some construction, something like that? So we've been advocating something called repurposing, and that's when we realized that the technology is important. When you put in a trommel, it is a machine without brains. It knows just to segregate based on sites, which is not enough, right? If you have RDF with stones, you have stones with RDF. In both the cases, the buyer is not happy, and you will end up doing a lot of illegal dumping. So that's why we've been advocating. If you see our machines, if you come to my site in, let's say, Gurugram versus my site in Vizag, those two machines are not the same, right? We do a pre-assessment, we do waste characterization study. If there is more inert, the machines change. If there are more RDF, the machines change, right? So we've been heavily emphasizing and investing in people to build up technology. The second is testing, very important. And in the biomining sector, we've always seen that this is kept on the last stage, right? Let me give you a clear example that what we call as pre-stabilization, the first step of biomining, right? We call it that when you go to a doctor, the first thing the doctor does is diagnoses you, okay, checks your pulses. Now it's similar to a dump site. When you go to a dump site, you cannot just say that I can biomine this, right? You'll have to do a pre-assessment. You'll have to see the waste characterization, and based on which you'll have to do a stabilization of the waste. Only when you have a proper stabilization of the waste is when you can get a good product at the end, which is ready for reusing, repurposing, or recycling. Otherwise, you're simply doing the circle again and again, right? Increasingly, we have seen cases where there has been biomining, but the RDF is not disposed. The inert is kept there. Why is that? That is because there has not been a scientific approach. Of course, this is not rocket science, right? You're not building rockets here. It is simple, but let's not resort to shortcuts is what we are saying. All the aggregates that you dispose, there are regulations. The CPCB guidelines is amply clear. Do the germination test, do the TCLP test, do the electrical conductivity test, do the salinity test, do a baseline study. I mean, you cannot skip this. It's compliance. It's not a war between Mercedes and a Suzuki that if you want Suzuki, it is available at 5 lakhs and a Mercedes at 25 lakhs. It's compliance. You can't have 30% compliance. You have to be compliant, right? To the maximum extent possible. So compliance is something that is not negotiable, is something that we've been advocating and we've been really adhering to. The third is traceability. Now, this is again important because we need to know, I mean, let's say 5 years down the line or 60 years down the line, you are the commissioner of a corporation which has done a biomining, and somebody comes back to you, the NGT comes back to you and tells, where have you disposed the inert? Where have you disposed the RDF? That's when this traceability plays a very important role, and you have to adhere to traceability, and that's possible. Now, I came in a chronology. Only when you have a good technology and a good testing can you proudly get into traceability, right? So you can proudly say, yes, I can give you 100% last mile traceability. You want co-processing certificates from the cement plants. You want land certificates where the inert has been disposed. You want certificates from the people who have used our soil, is what we can provide them. We can give you the certificates from the recyclers who have taken this. They're all state registered recyclers. So there is complete transparency and traceability. So this is something that we've been doing all around. And fourth is transparency. So we've heavily invested in a enterprise resource planning software, which we built again ourselves. Okay, we said we'll not buy in the market. We brought in a ERP software, and whether the ULB wanted it or not, we gave a complete package to them with a unique user ID and password. Now, this being a public money, if there is a biomining happening in Vadodara, if you are a citizen of Vadodara, you also are equally required to see this. You can see this. What is happening to my city? It is my taxpayer. You pay municipal tax. That's what is going in the biomining. So we said, we'll give you a user ID, we'll give you a password, you log in. You can see what is happening, what processing is happening. You can have live feed data. You can see cameras. You can see processing. You can see pictures of the vehicles which are disposed. You can see pictures of the vehicles which is being processed. And it is all live, right? So we said, we're going to give you live. So we did a extensive programming software. We brought in our old team and we developed this. And whether the ULB is asked or not, we gave this, and we are happy to say that today this particular software is being made mandatory in most of the tenders, because this solves all your problem. You just click, and I mean, every month we are required to give a lot of data for the corporations before the bills are passed. Now, just imagine that these are available online. Okay, so you just click and then all data are down there. So that's how we worked on it, and we've been quite successful in this. So I will spare you this. This has already been discussed multiple number of times. What is the way the methane is generated? And so one thing which I would emphasize again is pre-stabilization of the waste. Most of the biomining companies today are skipping this as saying that it's legacy waste. ये तो गल चुका है, इसमें कुछ नहीं है, इसमें मिट्टी है. This is wrong. 100% of the dump sites that we have seen, we have worked in almost 35 dump sites. It's the first layer. Okay, you go down, it's the same. It's almost fresh, right? So this is all, I would say that it's all a myth that wo gal chuka hai. Wo gala nahi. So you will have to do the pre-stabilization. It has to be done, in an orthodox way. You will have to do the germination test, and only then go for, what should I say, the segregation and processing. Segregation and processing, if the technology is there, is not a rocket science. It's very easy. But this is very important. Pre-stabilization is very, very important. Now, the moisture should be optimum. If the moisture is high, your machines get choked. The moisture is low, your air quality deteriorates. It's as simple as that. The only when you do pre-stabilization that you see that the odor is gone. Only when you do pre-stabilization, you can see that the scavenging birds and animals stop coming. So that's a good scene. So if you come to our site in Chennai today, we had the Singapore environmental minister, who was apparently for the G20, and she came. And one of the things that she said was, I don't even realize that I'm in a dump site. So that's a big thing for us. It's not what we have processed or what we have disposed. When somebody gives a compliment like this, is something that is to feel proud about. And whether it is me or anybody else, I think this is something that everybody should do. I mean, that's the whole concept of biomining, isn't it? So that's how it is. So that's pre-stabilization. And we've been talking about taking out methane out of the landfill sites, especially dump sites. Our counterparts in Korea have tried that. In Korea, the gas is expensive, right? So it makes a lot of sense for them, right? But in India, as Sanjeev ji was telling, it makes absolute no sense. You are actually adding on to the cost. So I think, of course, it could help in mitigating the methane, but it has a huge cost component to it. So it is, although it is feasible, it is not viable, right? Cover material, they say that the pre-stabilized waste, once you stabilize the waste, it's better that you cover it so that it is not exposed to rain, because leachate, I think we're all missing that. Leachate is also one of the major contributors to methane, right? So if you don't cover this, and if there are rains, then you're again generating the leachate and again contributing. So I think covering the waste after pre-stabilization is also very important. Regular maintenance and monitoring. Okay, so fire, I think Richa has already talked about it. Fire. We call fire and dump site as husband and wife. Right? So if you say that I am a guy, I will ensure that there is no fires in the landfill sites, you are the biggest fool in this room, right? So there is going to be fire. Can I tell you an instance? If you find a mirror in the landfill and the sun falls on that mirror and it is continuously focusing on a plastic, what do you call that? How do you prevent that? So what technology or what policy are you talking about? It's not possible, right? So the only way that we have realized is that you can contain fire is only one thing, it's vigilance. If you are able to contain the fire within half an hour of it getting ignited, you have won it. Otherwise, you are going for a big mess. Okay. So the point is that to add on to this, we have brought in thermal sensing equipments, right? So what we do is during summers, we ensure that we get onto this thermal sensing equipments and we see where the methane contents are very high. We ensure that there are people standing there. We are ensuring that there are earth excavators standing there. We are ensuring that the vehicles with not water, vehicles with soil standing there, right? I would not like to mention the place, but there was a large fire that we've seen in a dump site in South India recently. And I have followed the whole case, right? And the basic problem was that the containment of fire was given to the fire department, right? So it is not possible, right? My earthmore operators is much more accustomed or equipped to handle a fire in a dump site than probably an award-winning firefighter, right? Because he's known to it, right? The firefighting, if you've seen the excavators, the hands of the equipment should be used like a hand to contain the fire. It's all about not allowing the fire to get in more of oxygen. When you've put in fire, you are giving it more of oxygen. You'll have to cut the fire. You have to cut the oxygen, right? So either you use fine soil or fine soil which is wet and cover it so that the fire is contained. Okay, so fire is one of the major contributors to methane emissions, and the only way you do it is by proper vigilance. Vigilance is the key. We are handling a 90-acre, that's the largest one that we're currently handling, a 90-acre landfill in Perungudi, Chennai. And we've been extremely successful with containing fire, touch wood, till today. And it is all because of vigilance. There is, again, no rocket science, right? Make sure that you have a complete vigilance, increase your manpower, maybe a security who are given a proper training on how to do it, what kind of things to do it, give them walkie-talkies, and make sure that there are excavators at every point. Don't leave that excavators to take about 1 hour to 2 hours to come there, because excavators are very slow. We know that, right? So this is all about it. But if somebody says, no, I will ensure that the fires are not there, it's not possible. That is what our experience in the biomining industry tells us. Regulatory compliances, completely absent. We have seen the market that people are not even taking an authorization from the Pollution Control Board, let alone other things. Right now, as we speak, we are taking about 13 to 14 compliances on a landfill mining project, dump site mining projects. And that is what, in fact, what I would say has taught us a lot of things, right? Because the compliances require you to give reports quarterly, monthly, daily, and forces you to do certain things, which teaches you to be a better player in the market and be a step ahead, right? For example, leachate management report to be given to the Pollution Control Board every month. Now it forces you to look for somebody who can handle the leachate for you, right? I'll come to the leachate again, because that's a very important point for dump sites, because today more and more people are talking about, they just put one line, leachate treatment to be done as per SWM rules 2016, full stop, in the tender document. Now just imagine a dump site of 94 acres, which is not covered at the bottom. You are supposed to collect the leachate and treat it. And this project is only for 18 months. How, I mean, the projects like large projects in North India, which I don't want to name, have set up leachate treatment plants, spending crores and crores of rupees, and they're not able to treat leachate, because leachate, the problem with the leachate is you cannot determine the characteristics. You cannot determine the values. The TDAs, the heavy metals, they're so varying the summer, the rains, the winter, it all varies. So it's very difficult. So how can a biomining company do that for when a project is given to him for 2 years, right? So it should be properly understood that it's only leachate management that a landfill mining company can do that. That is, if you see any leachate that is getting stagnated, suck it out, take it to a pond which is covered, and probably channelize it to the nearest STP plant. The STP plants at 100 mld, 10 mld. So you just give them 10,000 liters per day. It is hardly, it's in a very diluted form. So that is how, you can manage leachate in the biomining industry or a player, but not leachate treatment. It's ruled out. We have tied up with certain companies, certain institutions to treat leachate on algae. But the problem with algae is, again, it is depending on the sunlight, number one. Number two, the quantity is very, very less. Okay, we could not escalate beyond 500 liters per day, and 500 liters per day is nothing. So we have tried it. We are still doing it in smaller projects, but I think on a long run, on a scalable model, what we are talking about, it's only leachate management that could be possible and not treatment. Of course, regulatory compliance, that is something that I told you, and then community engagement. Now, without community engagement, it's extremely difficult to work. It has to be done. Environmental monitoring is something very, very important as well. And this, when genuinely done, as I said, could also be a shot in the arm for the company, because it also gives you certain indications that whether the process that you're adopting is on the right direction or not. An increased contamination in the surface water, underground water could always give an indication, provided there is no fresh waste being dumped, right? If the fresh waste is being dumped, then you have no clue. You are just walking in as a blind man, right? So just a quick before after pictures, just a pleasure to your eyes. Some of the key projects that we have done with environmental impacts. This was the first project that we have done. It was also the first project that was delivered in India under the integrated model, where we said that every point, we call it, give us the dump site, we'll give you football field, right? So ULBs, we understand, do not have expertise, and that's why the dump sites are standing there. Now, if you tell them, you give me power, you give me manpower, you give me this, you give me that, why are they standing there? So the point is, we told them, you give us dump sites, we'll give you football field, right? So we said, we'll do everything for you. We'll do the processing, we'll do the stabilization, we'll give you the compliances, we'll give you traceability, we'll give you manpower, we will clear the dumps, we'll clear the whole dump site, we'll do the disposal also. So that's the whole concept. All we need is processing cost, right? And we fought for it. This is the first one that we did. And this was another very, very eco-sensitive project that we have done. The area that the small shed that you see was supposed to be a vermicompost shed, right? Where they were supposed to do vermicomposting, but it, like any other places, it ended up as a dump site. It was on a Sembakam lake, a beautiful lake on the suburbs of Chennai. The water ultimately goes to Pallikaranai, which is a Ramsar site, right? And the whole thing was dumped. If you stood here, you could see cranes as far as from Australia migrating and feeding here on the same lake. So it was the land was then handed over to the Public Works Department, and it's a beautiful park now. So this is another beautiful award-winning project of Sector 54 in Noida. Now, this is the current view. They've converted it to a beautiful park. Thousands of people come here every day, right? And that was how it was earlier, right? This was an NGT monitored case, right? And as per the NGT order, it went for landfill mining. It got the Smart City Awards for 2022 also. So this was the erstwhile largest dump site that we reclaimed in the center of Vijayawada. The beauty about this project was it was 45 acres, and the project was equal to 1 acre of land, and we reclaimed 45 acres of land, right? The per acre was costing 35 crores, and the whole project cost was 35 crores, right? So you could see the residential apartments there. They were supposed to be built for rehabilitation of slum dwellers under the JN Noor scheme. And since the dump sites were there, people did not come. And once we cleared it, now it is a completely occupied, of course, it was not on the dump site, right? I'm a strong advocate that dump sites should not be used. Erstwhile dump sites should not be used for habitation, no matter what happens, unless and until there is an expert team evaluating it and remediating. This is yet another NGT monitored case because the river that you see is the Vishwamitri River in Vadodara. This is one of the natural habitats of the Indian marsh crocodiles, right? The order was, or the NGT gave an order to do the biomining, and we completely reclaimed the site, 14 acres. This is now converted into a construction and demolition waste facility and a plastic waste processing facility. This is yet another beautiful project. Unfortunately, in Erode, you can see the situation there. That's Kaveri River, and it is actually the primary source of drinking water for lakhs and lakhs of people, right? The beauty was that they used to dump it here, and when the monsoons come, right? So this was again an NGT order, and the NGT chairman for Tamil Nadu visited the site 4 times. Right, we initially did it till a level, but then he insisted that we have to go and reach the natural ground level. So you can see that we reached the natural ground level. So if you can see here, this one, this one, right? So it's the same building. So it's another award-winning project. We got a Smart City Award for this project. This is first project of Kerala, which was completed in Kollam. This is again a Ramsar site, Astamudi Lake, right? It was the first project under the Swachh Kerala mission, and we completed this. The handover is happening on day after tomorrow, Saturday. We have completely, the biggest challenge we faced here was disposal of RDF because Kerala does not have any cement factories. There is an embargo for transferring waste from Kerala to any other states, right? So it was a huge challenge. So we took about 3 more months for just disposing the RDF. All right. So we have completely reclaimed it now. This is an ongoing project in Guwahati. Again, a Ramsar site. Again, a NGT monitored site in Paschim Boragaon. This is ongoing, and we have halfway there. These are all other projects that we have done. This is Poonamalli in Chennai suburbs. This is one of the largest in Maharashtra. We've reclaimed about 53 acres. So this site is converted into a construction and demolition waste plant by Ramki, a Christian, a Christian cemetery, a Muslim cemetery, a fresh waste processing plant, Miyawaki forest, and they are also coming up with the animal shelter. So they've got a huge 53-acre land now, which they reused it. This is yet another suburb, Pamal. This is Noida, the second project in Noida. That is what you see around is a reserve forest, right? So they went and dumped into a reserve forest. This is Tirupati. This is Chidambaram in Tamil Nadu. This is another lake. So this is what we are talking about. I think somebody asked about ground level. So what you see here is that the waste is clear till the ground level. Now what remains to be done is we have to go into the lake and remove this, which is a bigger challenge because the moisture is extremely high, right? And then it takes a longer time for stabilization. So you'll have to keep reclaiming the lake in short spans. But this, this project is still up for grabs. We are still working on it because we are discussing with the Tamil Nadu government that the price that has been offered is very low. This requires special focus and special expertise. So this is Karur. This is Karaikudi. This is Dindigal. This is Noida, third project. This is Tambaram. This is Erode. This is Trichy. Again, award-winning project, very large project, 36 acres. This is Kadalur. Before I end, I'd like to talk some important points that Richa had raised and I wanted to tell. The first thing is, ideally, if let's say there is a fresh waste coming, the ULBs don't have any option. The best part is to go for a scientific landfill. You are not able to bring a behavioral change because when you talk about source segregation, why is there a challenge? It's because people have to change. It's a behavioral change. It takes time. Indore did it fast. Others are not able to do it. It's simple. And you cannot take out the Indore model and put it somewhere else just without understanding the behavior of the people. So, I mean, if you look at the West, like if you go to Australia, why are sanitary landfills successful there? They are also dumping mixed waste. The reason being that the private contractors or the private agencies are given landfill fees, right? So the land is given by the urban and local bodies. The capex for the landfill is given by the urban and local bodies. And when you dump each ton of waste, you get paid. Yes. What do you have to do for that? One, you'll have to put in the soil cover. You'll have to manage the methane. You should ensure there are no fire. You should manage the leachate. And then you'll have to put in the capex as well, right? I think it's a beautiful concept, but I think we have to a little bit get mature to it. But I think for a country like India, this is very important. I think I've discussed about containing fire. Carbon credit. I think we have tried probably for about a year on getting carbon credit. But the exact points what Richa said is something that has been haunting us, right? The first point is, please tell us from when was the waste dumped? Please tell us what is the organic part of this waste? How do you justify that the today's waste characteristics and the 10-year-old waste characteristics were the same? And we persuaded this and we reached to a conclusion that probably it is extremely difficult for somebody, for the agencies to get us carbon credits. We're still trying for it. Kullu Manali is news for me, so I think I'll start working on that. But that's still a very lucrative thing to handle, because if we get a carbon credit, we can still work on reducing the processing cost. There has been also a point raised by Richa where there are no standards, Indian standards on what is the parameters in soil when you go for offsite disposal, right? What is that levels? Because currently the only way we can follow is the compost standards, right? But we've been following the US EPA, because US EPA has been very, very vocal and they've given specific standards on offsite disposal. So Richa, if I can share it with you, and they're much, much better than Indian standards. So because in the absence of the current standards, we've been following the USEP standards. Of course, we are a Singapore 500 company, so we'll have to give them some standards. We have been there. Now we are, pushing for Swedish standards, which are much more stringent than the USEP standards. In the point of recovered space, see, I think most of the people have been talking about biomining and everything, but one important part that everybody is missing is that urban and local bodies today are like a cat on the wall, or maybe riding a tiger, right? One, they have to handle the fresh waste. For handling the fresh waste, they need infrastructure. For putting the infrastructure, they want land. When they go for buying the land, there is dharna. So the question mark. The most important part, which is pushing the urban and local bodies for biomining, is not, I would say, the urge to do it, but it is actually because they want the land, right? There are a lot of case studies where you've seen that when corporations are trying to acquire land, people do not allow it simply because they know that it's not going to be a processing facility, it's going to be a dump site. So I think we missed that part. Of course, Sanjeev ji was extremely right that there is another big challenge that we are facing today is that out of biomining, the most critical part to dispose is the segregated combustible fractions, also called as RDF. Now, there are X number of cement companies who have X tons of processing capacity of RDF. So it is important for the agencies to also ensure that we don't overcommit ourselves, where we say that we will finish off all the landfill sites in, let's say, 1 year, but there are no takers of RDF. It is like operation successful, but the patient is dead, right? So I think it has to be done on a very phased manner, where we have to ensure that the cement companies also have the appetite to take the RDF, right? So you can't do that. And cement companies are already in certain limestone belts, right? You can't take them out and put them in Kashmir because you're doing a dump site mining in Kashmir, right? At the same time, we have to understand the thinking of cement companies. There is a huge capex involved in setting up co-processing facilities. It's not that if you see a cement company, they will take RDF. You need to put up a feeding system, you need to put up a co-processing system, and cement companies are highly regulated. They have huge taxation, so they take a long time to take decisions. So it's important for us to also understand that in order to see to it that the projects are successful, we have to ensure that there is an informed decision taken on what should be the right phase-wise execution of biomining projects across the country. Landfilling combustibles. So this is one more interesting part, which I want to tell you, because this is very connected to the methane thing. So our counterparts in Korea have been doing projects for about 25 years now. certain landmark infrastructure like the Swan subway station, the Seoul Olympic Stadium were erstwhile dump sites. All right. So, of course, they are not used for habitation. So that ticks the box. But the important part for you to know is that what they did during biomining was they removed the organics and baled the combustibles and kept it. Right. That was because they did not have, at that time, 10, 15 years back, they did not have takers for RDF. Right. But today, Korea, the coal is very expensive. So RDF is a much sorted out commodity. But that has been tried and it has been successfully executed. There have been landmark infrastructure which has been developed also. So this is something very interesting. But I don't think the Indian compliances would allow that, because they will always talk about reusing, recycling and things like that. But this is happening. Remediation and scientific treatment. So we'll also have to understand that this is coming to the last part, that once you finish the biomining, remediation of soil is a different topic altogether. And as a biomining company, I am not an expertise in it, nor do I have any intentions to get into it. But there are a lot of companies like there is Terry, who is an expert in remediation. I think if there is a serious effort for urban and local bodies to reuse this for a certain thing, I think the assessment should be done by Terry post the remediation on in how well the land is suitable for using it for habitation, if at all. I think this is all. I am open to take questions. I hope I've done justice to the time that you guys have given me. Thank you.
Do we have questions? If you all allow me to ask one question first.
I'm scared.
Sir, actually, I've been hearing a lot about this South Korea. There was a dump site and then it was converted into, I think, a stadium. And I've seen, I mean, in US also, there's so many examples like this. But when we talk about remediation in India, what we are doing is actually, of course, considering the fact that we have limited funds to remediate. Remediation is a very technical word. If I say that this particular patch of land is contaminated, what complete remediation will mean, I have to treat the legacy waste. I have to make some gainful utilization, dispose it off in a scientific manner. I have to see what about the groundwater. How is the surface water quality? You were also mentioning about the wetlands. There was a dump site near to a wetland, Ramsar site, and things like that. Are we actually doing the complete remediation is the question. And once we do that, that particular site can, it can be used for habitation purpose also, or for doing anything we want. But right now, under the phase 2 of Swachh Bharat mission, the mandate says that at least just remove this legacy waste garbage mountains. We don't want that. And then because it is acting as a source of pollution, causing a lot of contamination to the groundwater and rest of the places. Just imagine a place where we are living. I mean, there is a commercial establishment, or there are people or school or things like that. And by any chance, if we are getting exposed to the pollution, which was earlier caused by the dump site, is a matter of concern. So I think this is something why the Indian regulation is a bit, there is a confusion about like what to do with the reclaimed land. And we are a bit careful about whether we should call it completely reclaimed land or not. So like, do you have?
No, Richa, I don't know about you, but I am very, very clear, right? Even if, let's say tomorrow we opt an agency like Terry who comes and says this land is remediated, I would still not go for it. I would say that the first 15 years is a complete no-no for habitation. Okay. Let's say parking lots, bus stations, markets, solid waste management infrastructure, stadiums, all kinds of things are okay, where you're not you don't have any habitations. That I think you would have heard the Bombay Mindspace case also, right? It's a classic case, right? So I think remediation is a word that is coined for remediation of waste in our case. But what we are talking about now is remediation of land, right? Which is a much, much more vast subject. And it's not about whether the heavy metals are present. It's what about whether these heavy metals are leaching out, right? So this is a clear demarcation that we need to make ourselves clear, because even when we do testing of inerts, the heavy metal certain times, mostly chromium, we've always seen that the chromium is always on a higher side. But when you do a TCLP test, it's always safe. So I think we'll have to clearly understand and make our mind. But
I'm so sorry, but for TCLP test also, you must be comparing it with the standards given for hazardous waste.
of course,
And hazardous waste needs to be disposed of after doing the TCLP test, just to see if they are above the threshold limit
Correct.
or below the. So
Correct.
standards are not
exactly
the right standards
Yes.
to be used
So-
for.
Yes, so that's why we have just gone and picked up the standards from US EPA, because we always felt that since we don't have standards and there's nobody opening up on that, maybe down the line they will. We've been adopting the US EPA, and now we are trying to migrate to other standards as well, which are much more stringent, because we're comfortably doing that. Thank God we've seen that there's not a lot of hazardous waste found in these dump sites, thanks to the government, which has been very vigilant on hazardous waste.
Yes.
Right.
yes,
So
absolutely.
yes, it is there, but I think it is much, much lower when we compare to the quantity of waste. I mean, you still find batteries, tube lights and everything.
Yeah.
It's very, very low.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for the nice presentation. Actually, my question is related to what Richa had just asked, but in some different perspective. Actually, I just want to ask you, have you ever got some kind of problem from certain agencies or certain groups, like who comes and say the waste you are handling is hazardous in nature and you need to follow the guidelines of hazardous waste management to handling those kind of waste?
So when you talk about groups, are you talking about regulatory authorities? Is that what you're referring, or
Yeah,
general
could be
people?
regulatory authority, could be NGO.
See, I will not name, but there is a state which is.
So I
particular-
just, I'm not asking you details. I just want to ask you, what was your response?
Yeah,
and
so
how you
we
handled
have,
that kind
I
of
mean,
issue?
we've been handling a state which is very peculiar. We've been doing the project for the first time. The state has been known for being very, very aggressive and regressive towards waste management. And that's why I would call them that they're faring poor. I hope you have got it. But the point is, yes, there was an opposition, because the project that we are doing was surrounded by 3 temples, right? So these 3 temples had made a committee which was stationed in the dump site for a full-time dharna, 365 days, right? The dharna was to ensure that no waste is further dumped. So when we entered the dump site, the first thing they thought was we are coming here to dump the waste, right? So it required a lot of advocacy to make them understand that there's something called biomining where you can remove the waste, because they have till now seen only the waste coming in. They've not seen vehicles going out, right? So now you will not believe that we have been called to become trustees of the temples. Yes. So it's, see, that's what my presentation was when I talked about the 4 T's, right? So it's all about confidence building. And yes. So the confidence is about being truthful to yourself, to the society at large, right? I feel that honestly, the Indian solid waste management industry lacks this, right? When I say lack, let us assume that tomorrow, if I ask this gentleman that there is a project somewhere else and bid for this price, he will walk off. It's not because he's not making margins. He knows that it is not sustainable. It is not compliant, right? The compliance should be coming to your head primarily, not the money. Money will automatically come. But when you're talking about compliance, everything comes into the picture, not only taking licenses, but how good you are in advocacy, how good you are in talking and telling people what you are actually doing and building their confidence, right? So, I mean, we have out of the 100, 200 tenders that we bid, we hardly win 2, 3. The reason, because we don't go to that level. We can't, because we know it's not possible, right? So I think if you're truthful, you win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation indeed. I have just 2 questions actually. First, on the presentation, you mentioned about the case study of Kerala, where you had RDF, but there was no cement factory. So if you can explain more on what you have done, because it's a logistical hassle. So if you can explain on that. Second question on the compliance aspect of it, on the environmental monitoring. So if you look at the CPCB annual report, There's a table number 11 where you can see like how many states have given the ambient air quality monitoring and the leachate quality. If you see, most of the state have said no. Like if you attach the report, only Chandigarh have actually said yes. So if you can talk about a little bit on compliance aspect, that would also be because giving that data aspect. So because we were talking about data, if no state is providing like the data, how we can ensure that these aspects being taken.
So first thing about Kerala is uniquely placed. One, I'll tell you the multi-level challenges that you have when you're working in Kerala with the RDF perspectives. There are other perspectives also, but I would only answer on the RDF perspective. Number one, it doesn't have a cement plant. Number two, there is an embargo for bringing in any kind of waste into the state of Tamil Nadu. Right? This was done for a reason that there was illegal dumping of some biomedical waste by somebody and things like that. So for them, if we write plastic waste in the invoice, it's waste. Okay, so there is an embargo. So from Kerala, the nearest limestone belt is Tiruchi, right, which has the maximum number of cement plants. Now you cross that. So that's the 250 to 300 kilometer range. Then the next range comes to Kadapa or Gulbarga, right, which is 600 kilometers to 700 kilometers range. Okay, now let's assume that the point with the cement companies, I hope they're not listening, but the point is that they will not pay you, right? They want, if you're lucky, they will agree that it will be delivered to my doorstep free of cost, right? Now assume that you're ready to pay, you're ready to do everything. The third biggest challenge is logistics, right? Kerala gets very less, that too in Kollam, you have to get trucks which are ready to go back there, because they will go there only when they get a return load here, right? So even if the cement company is willing to take 300 tons per day, you are not even able to send 30 tons per day because you don't have trucks. So these are multi-level challenges. The third point is every dump site in Kerala, in order to access that, you'll have to go through a 20-feet road for 2.5 kilometers, right? Which is full of habitation. I will tell you an instance where we had to, without the knowledge of residents, shut down the power to bring our trommel machines inside the dump sites. Because if we had informed the residents, we would have been gherowed and the project would have never taken off. It was the power was shut down, saying it is a regular shutdown, and we had to bring, because there were trees. Okay, they had to cut the trees, the power lines were there, they had to remove and everything, right? So these are peculiar problems, and now the same problem will come to the logistics also. The RDF vehicles have to come before 6 o'clock and have to reach the dump site. They have to load and they can go out only at 10 o'clock, because if they go out in between, the road is jammed. And this is true for all two-tier. There is only one, there are only two large dump sites in Kerala. There's Trivandrum and Kochi. Barring those two, all the dump sites are like this. So these are peculiar problems which delayed our process, but we have tasted success. The second point about the compliances are, see, the report that you see is particularly the CPCB people going to the ULBs asking for this data, right? So there, CPCB has regional offices and they go to the urban and local bodies, but I think there has been some kind of a miscommunication because of which the data has not flew smoothly, right? But we have also been approached by the ULBs saying that the CPCB has asked for the data of all this, and we have promptly given them. Now, why it was not reported in the report is something that I am not able to envisage. But having said that, our projects that we have taken up are being strictly monitored by all third-party agencies. Like, let's talk about PwC, NPC, Faisal Memon, Anna University, National Institute of Technology, and all these have been our third party. So these third parties do not give you the monthly reports without submitting the environmental monitoring reports, let alone even looking at you for giving you a report, right? So this is mandatory documents and you'll have to submit this. So we have been very, very diligent, and this is something that we follow, because I've been always telling that these reports are not something that you think it's mandatory. It is just a mirror, right? I mean, you will have to see the mirror, no? Otherwise, you don't know how ugly or fair you are. So that is how we consider it as. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you for the presentation, sir. Sir, you said, the appetite of cement co-processing plants, it is very low in India. Like we have 3% thermal substitution rates. But while looking at the large amount of stats of RDF disposed, how Sigma was able to dispose such amount of RDF in a, like you mentioned, phase-wise manner? What was it?
There are two important things to consider here. One, when we started in 2016, right, there were not even a single taker of RDF except for ACC Wadi in Karnataka. That was the only person, and from Kumbakonam I used to take that. From there, today we are, as on date, supplying about 7,000 tons of RDF every single day as we speak. When I close my day today, I would have supplied something like 2,000 to 7,000 tons of it. The reason being is the quality and the quality. Cement companies have huge supplies, right? They will only take it from you if you have good quality, not otherwise. And also the other mantra is being supplying them with the sizes that they want, right? They're very, very particular on sizes, right? They don't want to see the problem with the cement companies are they're a red category. Okay, they can't keep a lot of stocks of RDF because it's inflammable. They come under, I mean, the pollution control board officer always sits in a cement plant, right? So he cannot see his cement plant becoming a dump site. So you'll have to give him all the wherewithals to see to it that the stock is like a feed stock, and he doesn't have to do any kind of a further processing to get it done. The biggest failure of most of the biomining companies today is because they are not able to give good quality RDF. The minute you give good quality of RDF, the takers will automatically come. Thank you.
So for fine fractions, what do you do with the fine fractions?
See, I'll tell you something that we generate fine fractions only when there is a demand. All right. It is purely geographical. For example, I'll tell you in Tirupati. In Tirupati, we had tied up with the forest department to convert barren land into green land. And so what was done was this fine soil was used as a top layer to all these barren lands just before the monsoons, all throughout the monsoons, so that it automatically started becoming green. Right. So, and you cannot put it like a very heavy layer, right? You can just put it like probably 1 feet, and automatically the water absorption capacity, it also has a lot of seeds in it. It automatically germinates. But this is not true in Nagpur. This is not true probably. Okay. In Chennai, what we did is we used this soil as road dividers. We used in all the road medians. The Greater Chennai Corporation offered us that we'll give you all the road medians. You can fill up your soil in the road median so that they can put in greenery there. So it works some places, but it doesn't work some places.
After testing it with TCLP procedures and...
Sorry?
So you test before?
Of course. Testing is mandatory, and we go with compost standards for fine soil, right? We go purely with compost standards. Whether, of course, there will be NPK will be low, P ratio will be low. They will not match the compost standards. We will never and have never given the fine soil to the farmers. We are completely against. We don't do that. The best thing you can do is non-edible crops, meaning nurseries. The forest nurseries are your biggest takers because they want huge amount of fine soil just before monsoons because they go for plantations. So forest nurseries is something that you can target. Edible crops is a simple no-no. I have been hearing all across the news that the compost is generated out of biomining soil. I hate the word compost because it should not be used in a tender document. Compost is something else. This is not compost. It's a soil enricher.
But even for the forest nursery, bioaccumulation could also happen.
Sorry?
Bioaccumulation, if you are giving it to forest nurseries, bioaccumulation could also happen. It can get into
but then you have tested it and it's all within the limits.
Okay.
There is no heavy metal contamination in this. If it's a heavy metal contamination, there is no question of offsite disposal. It's very clear. Then you'll have to go for bioremediation, where we get touch base with agencies like Terry and get it on.
And we do phytotoxicity test as well, which is like in order to understand if it is having toxic materials or not.
Salinity, electrical conductivity, you also have to see the salinity level. You'll have to also see the organic content. It cannot be higher because leachability will increase.
Okay, so we have to now stop for a while. I know there could be many more questions. So please do share your questions with us. Despite Nageshji's busy schedule, we'll find ways to catch him somewhere and have those questions answered. So with this, a big round of applause for both the panelists for very insightful discussion. We'll now break for one more round of tea. It's very essential after lunch. And I could see that there were few dozed eyes, so that's absolutely fine. But before we proceed for the tea break is for 15 minutes. We have one more panel discussion, which is the last one for the day. We have an environmental monitoring lab. So it's absolutely optional, but I need to know how many of you are actually interested, because I would then request my colleagues in the lab to stay with us and take us for a quick walk around. So can I have some hands raised to get a sense of how many of you are actually interested? Okay, if the number is good enough for us to kind of. So if the number is little more, then we may have to split it in two groups, because so that when they explain something, showing something, they are audible to all of us, right? So let's break for tea, 15 minutes. It's 10 minutes past 4. So we'll come back at 4:25. Thank you.